This was the statement given by a flood victim in UK, Julia, who was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder in 2016. Hi everyone, my name is Chee Wei. I'm a registered counselor. Today, I'm going to share about the psychological impact on flood victims. I believe most of us still remember the floods which happens in December 2021 to early 2022, affected 8 states across the peninsula, including Selangor and several districts in Pahang, Melanda and Negeri Sembilan. It was the Malaysia's worst floodings after so many years, and it affected about 100 over thousands of people overall, displaced thousands of people from their home, damaged property, vehicles, and it took life. All this can have deep impact on the victims, mentally and emotionally. Of course, no one can prevent natural disaster from happening, and we know the direct or indirect exposures to floods can lead to a range of negative mental health impact. When a natural disaster happens, most of the victims in the affected area will experience a certain numbers of emotional and physical reactions, either immediate aftermath of the disaster or maybe few hours or few days later. Psychologically, the flood victims might feel confused. They don't know what's happened next. They don't know what to do next. They might be very hyper-vigilant and suspicious and overly careful on the things that happens around them. They might have some disturbing image that they have in their mind. They might have flashback. They might have nightmare. They might blame others people. They might loss of concentrations and memories, hard in decisions making or problem solving, lesser or overly sensitive on the surrounding areas, and so on. Emotionally, they might feel anxious, fears, panic if things happens again. They might have sad feelings on the loss. They might feel stressed. They might feel depressed. And some of them easily get shocked on even those like small things in surrounding. And some of them easily get angry. Some of them might overly emotional, or some of them even emotionally numbness. If these symptoms occur immediate aftermath of the disaster, or maybe few hours or few days later, we could categorize this as acute stress disorder, which usually only short terms, which means it will fade off after a few days. Whereas if these symptoms prolong for more than a month and sometimes start after a certain period of disaster, or symptoms might trigger by images, similar disaster, news, social media and so on. These could be post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. Whether it is a ASD or PTSD, both situations need attention by mental health professionals. I would also like to share a few factors increase the risk of adverse psychological impact on flood victims. First, the level of exposure. Flood victims who experience greater damage, financial losses, employment issues after the disaster will have higher incidence of psychological impact. Secondly, those who have lack of social support. Social support is important after a disaster happens. It appears to be protective against several severe psychological issues after the floods. The third, their current mental health conditions. Flood victims with poorer mental and physical health prior to the disaster are likely to experience more intense psychological reactions after the floods. Bear in mind, the psychological reactions to flood would depend on the resilience level of the individuals, which means their ability to bounce back, cope or deal with these challenging situations. And the time taken to heal or recover is different from one than another. Some flood victims can still be calm after the disasters, even though they have just experienced loss of properties, family members, but some are not. So, if you need any assistance during the healing process, please don't hesitate to reach out to mental health professional as soon as possible. That's all about my sharing. Thank you very much and hope to see you all again in my next videos.